Chapter 13. Converging Pathways. Mott Shaldal Caldera, Kenya, Africa. The volcanic caldera in Kenya stands as a testament to the Earth's fiery temperament, a rugged landscape shaped by the forces of nature over millennia. Located amidst the rolling plains of the Great Rift Valley, this geological marvel commands attention with its imposing presence. As one approaches the caldera, the air grows heavy with the scent of sulfur, a sharp reminder of the volcanic activity that lies dormant beneath the surface. The terrain shifts from lush greenery to barren rock, the ground scarred by ancient lava flows and ash deposits. At the center of the caldera, a towering peak rises defiantly against the skyline, its jagged edges etched against the backdrop of the endless sky. Wisps of steam rise from its crater, a constant reminder of the restless energy that simmers beneath the Earth's crust. Surrounding the central peak, the caldera stretches upwards in a vast expanse of rugged terrain, dotted with rocky outcrops and twisted lava formations. Veins of hardened magma crisscross the landscape, testament to the violent eruptions that once shaped this land. Despite its harsh and unforgiving appearance, the caldera is teeming with life. Hardy shrubs cling to the rocky slopes, their vibrant green foliage providing a splash of color against the stark backdrop. Small animals scurry amidst the boulders, finding shelter in the crevices and caves that dot the landscape. A massive bipedal humanoid covered from head to toe in dull red scales crouches beside a lava pool, dipping something into the molten rock. As the creature removes the object, a human leg in flames is withdrawn from the lava flow. The Zemu consumes the leg, completely immune to the flames and the heat. Eodgriza Straktu looks around at the piles of human bones surrounding his cavern.
I have consumed nearly all of the villagers within several kilometers of this place. I need new hunting grounds for a while, if they are to rebuild their populations. Perhaps Jockey Island will provide me with fresh new prey.
The Zemu grins, thinking of new kills to come. A bullet pings off the hard scales of the Zemu's back, and he turns, seeing several men in green fatigues rushing the entrance to his cave. The cave was a labyrinth of shadows, the flickering torchlight casting eerie, dancing shadows on the rugged walls. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and anticipation as the men cautiously advanced, their footsteps echoing off the stone floor. Suddenly, a low, rumbling growl shattered the silence, causing the men to freeze in their tracks. From the darkness emerged the Zemu, its immense form silhouetted against the dim glow of the torches. Its eyes blazed with primal fury as it surveyed the intruders invading its domain. The men shout out, unleashing hellfire from their weapons. The men reacted swiftly, raising their guns and unleashing a barrage of bullets towards the Zemu. The sound of gunfire reverberated through the cavern, sharp cracks echoing off the walls like thunder. But the creature's thick hide proved impenetrable, the bullets merely bouncing off its armored scales. To the soldiers' horror, none of their bullets were able to pierce the hide of the dragonic creature. With a deafening roar, the Zemu charged forward, its claws glinting in the torchlight as it closed the distance between itself and its attackers. The men scrambled to evade its relentless assault, their shouts mingling with the sounds of combat. Eodgriza tears through the soldiers with ease, ripping off limbs and decapitating men as if they were made of paper. One by one, the men fell before the might of the Zemu. Some were slashed by its razor-sharp claws, while others were sent flying by the force of its powerful tail. Despite their valiant efforts, they were no match for the sheer strength and ferocity of the creature. As the battle raged on, the cave became a chaotic whirlwind of violence and desperation. The men fought with a desperate fervor. Their backs against the walls, they struggled to survive against the relentless onslaught of the Zemu.
It seems my hunting has drawn unwanted attention,
Eodgriza thinks.
Going to jockey will also provide me with a chance to lie low for a while.
The bullets are no concern to the Zmu, but if the military has become involved in hunting him, larger weapons will eventually be employed. Not even the scales of a Zmu are impervious to higher caliber rounds. Magical City of Endelgian, dormitory of Master Juvet Diota. As promised, Danny, Allure, and Zaya meet back up after a day of research and preparations. Allure is the first to notice Danny is sporting her new shiny bracers and gauntlets. Well, Allure asks, how do they work? As long as I'm wearing both the gauntlets and the bracers, physical damage dealt by me to any opponent will absorb a portion of magical energy and store it in my bracers. The bracers are enchanted to feed the magical energy directly into my body, as if it were my own natural magic power, Danny explains. It'll be dangerous having to stay close enough to your opponents to score physical damage with only your fists, Zaya says. Yeah, but at least this gives me a fighting chance, Danny says. Without these tools, I would be without any means of participating in the tournament. Maybe we can find a way to charge up the bracers before you ever have to fight anything, Allure says. That should allow you to get in a few attacks before having to worry about dealing physical damage to recharge. And what about you? Did the math club come up with anything useful? Danny asks, teasing her friends. Allure conjures a pair of glasses and sets them on the end of her nose before speaking. Quite a lot, actually. Historically, the most commonly encountered supernatural creatures worldwide are spirits and lesser undead. I've omitted them from our list because I've rarely heard of an undead or ghost having the intelligence or means to participate in a tournament like on Jockey. So what would be the next most likely thing for us to encounter? Danny asks. Therians and greater undead, Allure says. Therians are all the various shapeshifters and human-like monsters. It's a very broad category, ranging from wares like Varkalox and Yakaruna, to sirens, Obake, and succubi, Zaya adds. And the greater undead? Danny asks. Lemurs, like vampires. They're a lot more intelligent than the lesser undead. And they're also a lot more ambitious, Allure says. Anything else to look out for? Danny asks. Devil-possessed people are pretty common and can be encountered anywhere there are people, Allure says. They also have that extra connection to the Yazata, having used to be among them. I would bet on seeing at least a few devils on Jockey, Zaya says. There's also a wild card category, Allure says. Magical beings of the Fae are sighted all around the world, and have an incredible variety between their types and abilities. While they don't normally interfere in mortal affairs, it isn't impossible. And a weapon of the Yazata may just be tempting enough bait to draw out some of the Fae to Jockey, Zaya adds. From what I was able to dig up on the island in our records, it was once a magical haven for the Fae. It was the Yazata that wiped most of them out and turned Jockey into a hiding place for this weapon Inyana is advertising. That's not all, Allure says. We may also have to contend with demonic creatures. Aside from devils? Danny asks, confused. What's the difference? A lot, actually. Devils really have nothing to do with demons aside from them sometimes working for them as muscle. Demons are a lot more like the Fae than they are the devils. They're composed of many different species and varieties, all connected by magic, Allure explains. What can we do to prepare for some of these likely enemies? Danny asks. Fighting the Therians and demons will be the most straightforward. Most have enhanced abilities, but rarely have the kind of overpowered hacks that devils and Fae use. The Lemurs will be tricky, but with the right spells and weaponry to counter them, we should be able to take them down like any other undead, Zaya says. Well, let's break down our worst matchups, Danny says. That's where we need to build our strategy from. The devils have strong psychic abilities. Most, even of the lower-ranked individuals, can read minds, move objects, and conjure fire. The strongest devils can manipulate a target's body and their organs with biokinesis. We should protect ourselves from their abilities at all costs, Laura says. A strong enough devil could kill one of us immediately by snapping our neck or exploding our heart from even a distance. The Fae are another tough matchup because of their magic, Zaya says. A weak Fae is said to still have the magic power rivaling that of a master-level magician. We're lucky most Fae are benevolent or at least neutral, but dark Fae do exist and will have a greater command of the elements than any of us. What would be considered a dark Fae? Danny asks. Any of the goblin-like creatures, Bwabaks, Kukui, ogres, trolls, or even corrupted nature spirits like dryads and satyrs. Probably a lot more, Laura says with a shrug. Danny feels a migraine forming. All the fantasy monsters are real. Unfortunately, human imagination is less varied than reality. Most stories come from some basis in truth. The Fae rarely dwell in the mortal world. Most often they are only encountered beyond the Yetzira and the Selate Taram, Laura says. Wait, beyond the Yetzira? Danny whispers. I thought the wastes were endless. They are, kinda, Laura says. It's difficult to explain the way the astral world works. By normal travel, one could never fully cross the Yetzira. Those with magic, however, have other means of travel. Selate Taram can be reached via teleportation magic. Delgian has a good relationship with the kingdom of Doyle. We even have a handful of mages that have been stationed there in the past. If there is currently one of our own in that world, we might be able to get in contact with them and all but eliminate the possibility of any Fae entering the tournament, Zaya says. We need to get on that, Danny says. I don't like the idea of anything Tolkien participating on Jockey against us. The truth is, we have no idea what we're going to be up against and no real way to narrow down the list, Laura says. Our best bet is to cover the spread and prepare for the most probable threats based on their populations alone, Zaya says. Then, if we have any time remaining, come up with a workaround for the rarer but more dangerous creatures, ones that need specific strategies to defeat. Zaya, try and see if you can find a way to contact one of the mages that still have a history with the good rapport with the people of Selate Taram, Danny says. It would be helpful to add some more firepower to our team. I'll do what I can, Zaya says with a nod. But do you think you can get the others ready on time, just the two of you? Danny shrugs. Not like we have much of a choice. The clock is running out. We can't waste any time now. Every move we make must be towards the ultimate goal of not just making it to Jockey alive, but winning that fucking tournament. Brighton, Florida. In a dimly lit training hall, Jake Stewart stood, his muscles taut and his focus sharp. He was a teenager with extraordinary abilities, honing his skills for the upcoming tournament of supernatural creatures hosted by Inyana, the resurrected Sakari Queen. Now here he was, beginning the next phase of his training, orchestrated by the Paranormal Investigation Agency, a covert government organization tasked with monitoring and regulating supernatural phenomena. It began with a mysterious encounter, chance meeting with an enigmatic operative who had been observing Jake from the shadows, recognizing his extraordinary abilities. The PIA agent approached him with an offer, the opportunity to master his talents under the agency's guidance and prepare for the upcoming tournament. Jake had come as far as he could on his own. He could not give training his all in public, for fear of drawing too much attention, and he could only do so much through image training with Yamura. It was only logical that he accept Agent Colstock's offer. With the PIA, not only could he have a place to train away from prying eyes, he could also relieve some of the heat from law enforcement bearing down upon him. Jake was still wanted for Yamura's crimes in Rockland, and for all the lives lost during their showdown with Inyana and Totikahachi. The PIA had appropriated the building for their own uses as soon as they had learned of Jake's residence within the city. Confident they would be able to sway the teen to their side, they had been saving the facility for times when they needed a place where they could train without fear of discovery or interference. Located in a remote and secluded location, the hall also served as a sanctuary for those with supernatural gifts, a place where they could train without fear of discovery or interference. Within the walls of the training hall, Jake found himself surrounded by others like him, individuals with extraordinary powers and abilities, each with their own reasons for seeking out the guidance of the PIA. Even as he immersed himself in his training, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Obviously, he drew some attention. Unlike the others gathered in the training hall, Jake Stewart was somewhat infamous. Anyone with a television had likely seen his face on the news a few times, in connection with the events of both Rockland, Indiana, and Totikahachi, Florida. This kept the teen an outsider, even among others with forbidden abilities, otherwise ostracized and shunned by society. He knew that the PIA was keeping a close eye on him, monitoring his progress and evaluating his potential. Yet despite the secrecy and the uncertainty that shrouded his involvement with the agency, Jake couldn't deny the opportunity that lay before him. The chance to unlock the true extent of his abilities, to prove himself on the world stage. With a deep breath, Jake centered himself, tapping into the well of energy that coursed through his veins. He'd always possessed a heightened awareness and control over this energy, a gift that set him apart from others. As he concentrated, he felt his aura begin to swirl around him, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Focusing his intent, Jake condensed his aura, shaping it into a bladed weapon of pure energy. The blade hummed softly as it materialized in his hand, crackling with power. With a fluid motion, he began practicing his forms, the blade slicing effortlessly through the air. Each movement was precise, a testament of years of training and discipline. Jake knew that in the tournament ahead, he would face opponents unlike any he had ever encountered before. Creatures of myth and legend would test his skills to their limits, and he was determined to emerge victorious. But beyond the thrill of competition, Jake sensed the deeper purpose to his training. Inyana's tournament was more than just a contest of strength and skill. It was a chance to prove himself, to uncover the true extent of his abilities, and even to unravel the mysteries of his own past. Jake felt an unease of anticipation building within him. The tournament loomed on the horizon, promising both danger and opportunity. But whatever challenges lay ahead, Jake was ready to face them head-on. His blade of energy at the ready, his spirit unyielding. As Jake continued his training, he delved deeper into the intricacies of manipulating his aura. He experimented with different forms and shapes, pushing the limits of his abilities. With each practice session, he sought to refine his control, striving for mastery over every aspect of his powers. But training wasn't just physical, it was mental and spiritual as well. Jake meditated regularly, seeking to attune his mind to the flow of the energy around him. He had studied ancient texts and lore, gaining insights into the history of the supernatural beings and the secrets of their powers. "The kid is talented," Bernard says. "I thought for sure Colstock was bluffing." Alyssa watches Jake's movements with concern, unblinking. "He has a strange aura that I cannot seem to place." "Sakari," Agent Colstock says, approaching the two monster hunters. "What?" Alyssa shouts in alarm. "Like Inyana?" Colstock nods. Young Jake here has the spirit of Inyana's brother Yamura fused with his body. It's a unique pairing, but it does seem to have its benefits. I'd say, Bernat replies. He's stronger than most demons we've fought. Alyssa unsheathes her sword and steps forward. Wait, you can't be serious, Colstock says. There is only one way to know for sure just how strong he is, Alyssa replies. If he can survive me, he might just stand a chance against the creatures we will soon face on Jockey. Alyssa approaches Jake as the teen finishes a round of physical exercises. Hey, what's up? Jake asks. You will fight me, Alyssa says without emotion. Are you serious? Jake stares at the woman in disbelief. You want to fight me? Are you scared? Alyssa taunts, hoping to push the teen into combat. Jake chuckles. Hardly. I just don't want to be arrested for the things I'm about to do to you. Kid, I wouldn't take this fight so lightly, Colstock says. Alyssa is an experienced warrior. She could kill you about 1,000 different ways before you even knew what happened. Really? Jake stares at the woman intently, studying her carefully. Alyssa remains motionless, not even blinking. She's intense for sure, but I can't sense any crazy power within her. You need to stop being so reliant on your senses, Colstock warns. Some of the more experienced fighters can keep that energy from leaking out, saving it for when they really need to utilize it. Don't be lured into a false sense of security. Jake takes a deep breath and focuses his aura around his body in a bright blue glow. Guess I gotta take her down fast then. Concentrating, Jake manifests energy into his hand and condenses it into a glowing blue sword. Alyssa Taram's eyes gleamed with focus as she gripped her blade tightly, ready to test Jake's abilities to their limits. Jake and Alyssa square off, each assessing the other's stance and readiness. Jake's aura blade crackles with energy, while Alyssa's sword gleams in the dim light of the training hall. Alyssa makes the first move, lunging forward with a swift thrust, aimed at Jake's chest. Jake sidesteps the attack, nearly avoiding the blade as it whistles past him. Seizing the opening, Jake retaliates with a series of quick strikes, his aura blade flashing as he aims for Alyssa's exposed flank. She parries his blows with expert precision, deflecting each strike with fluid moves. Alyssa feints high, aiming for Jake's head, but at the last moment she switches direction, sweeping low in an attempt to catch him off guard. Jake anticipates her move and leaps backward, narrowly evading the blade as it slices through the air. Jake and Alyssa engage in a rapid exchange of blows, their swords clashing with resounding clangs. Each strike is met with a counterstrike, as they dance around each other in a deadly display of skill and agility. Alyssa launches a powerful thrust towards Jake's midsection, aiming to drive him back and gain the upper hand. Jake braces himself, deflecting the blow with a well-timed block, the force of the impact sending shockwaves rippling through his arm. Sensing an opportunity, Jake channels his energy into a concentrated burst, sending a wave of force rippling towards Alyssa. She braces herself, gritting her teeth as she absorbs the impact, her stance unyielding against the onslaught. Closing the distance between them, Jake and Alyssa engaged in close-quarters combat, their blades a blur of motion as they exchanged rapid strikes and parries. Sweat beads on their brows as they push themselves to their limits, neither willing to back down. With a surge of determination, Jake launches a final decisive strike, his aura blade glowing with intensity as it arcs towards Alyssa's defenses. She meets him head-on, their swords locking in a clash of wills as they strain against each other's strength. After a tense moment of struggle, Jake and Alyssa break apart, both panting heavily as they lower their blades. Okay, Jake says, keeping his eyes focused on his opponent. You aren't all talk. Having you on our side might come in handy against Inyana. Kid, if you can't defeat me, you won't survive long enough to face Inyana, Alyssa says. What? Jake shouts, growing agitated. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means there are a lot stronger things than me out there, Alyssa replies. And if you can't defeat a human like me, you'll be slaughtered. So what does that say about you, then? I have experience, Alyssa replies without hesitation. While you may slip up and get yourself killed by a monster with strange abilities, I will not. That is the difference between us. I will be able to keep my mind clean and adapt to any challenge. You have already proven to me that you are emotionally unfit for this undertaking. After the momentary pause, Jake and Alyssa regroup, circling each other warily as they catch their breath. The intensity of their duel has heightened their senses, each acutely aware of the other's movements. Alyssa initiates the next exchange with a deceptive feint, drawing Jake's attention before swiftly changing directions with a horizontal slash aimed at his legs. Jake anticipates her move and responds with a lightning-fast counter, redirecting her blade with a deft twist of his wrist. Sensing an opening, Alyssa executes a strategic retreat, luring Jake forward with a calculated precision. Jake, wary of falling into a trap, advances cautiously, his senses on high alert as he scans for any sign of deception. Suddenly, Alyssa launches a surprise attack from an unexpected angle, her blade arcing towards Jake with lethal intent. Caught off guard, Jake barely manages to block the strike in the nick of time, the force of the impact jarring his arm as he struggles to maintain his balance. Adrenaline coursing through his veins, Jake launches a counteroffensive of his own, his aura blade pulsating with renewed vigor as he presses the attack. Alyssa meets his onslaught head-on, her movements fluid and precise as she deflects his blows with practiced ease. Jake executes a desperate gambit, channeling his energy into a daring maneuver that catches Alyssa off guard. With a sudden burst of speed, he closes the distance between them in a blink of an eye. His blade inches away from her throat. Reacting on instinct, Alyssa twists aside at the last possible moment, nearly avoiding Jake's lethal strike as she spins away to safety. Your movements and technique lack refinement, and you are quick to emotional reactions, Alyssa says. Oh, now you want to be helpful and give me pointers, Jake groans. And here I thought you were just trying to kill me. If I wanted you dead, kid, you would have been dead in the opening move, Alyssa says, betraying no emotions. She is not being arrogant or boastful. She truly believes what she says to be a fact. She's really starting to piss me off, Jake thinks, balling his fists in anger. I hate that smug look on her face. Do not be so eager to play into this, Ymir cautions. I believe that she may be trying to push you into action without proper forethought. Screw that, Jake growls. I'm gonna punch her in her stupid face really fucking hard. No need to plan that out. Jake and Alyssa squared off for another round, their eyes locked in a steely gaze as they assessed each other's stance and readiness. The air crackled with anticipation as they prepared to engage in another fierce duel. Alyssa made the first move again, her sword flashing as she lunged forward with a swift thrust, aimed at Jake's chest. Jake reacted quickly, sidestepping the attack and countering with a fluid strike of his own, his aura blade crackling with energy. Alyssa deftly parried Jake's blow, her movements fluid and precise as she launched a riposte aimed at his exposed flank. Jake reacted just in time, blocking the strike with a well-timed parry before launching into a series of lightning-fast counterattacks. The training hall echoed with the sound of clashing blades as Jake and Alyssa engaged in a rapid exchange of blows. Each strike was met with a counter-strike, the intensity of their duel escalating with each passing moment. Jake feigns a jab, testing Alyssa's reflexes. Alyssa dodges gracefully to the side, countering with a swift kick to Jake's midsection. Jake blocks the kick with his forearm, then retaliates with a powerful roundhouse kick aimed at Alyssa's head. Alyssa ducks underneath the kick, narrowly avoiding contact, and delivers a series of rapid punches to Jake's torso. Jake deflects the punches with quick, precise blocks, then sweeps his leg in a low kick aimed at Alyssa's ankles. Alyssa jumps over the sweeping kick, landing behind Jake, and attempts to lock him in a chokehold. Jake reacts quickly, spinning out of Alyssa's grasp and delivering a spinning back fist towards her face. Alyssa blocks the strike with her forearm, then counters with a powerful knee to Jake's abdomen. Jake grunts in pain but retaliates with a flurry of punches aimed at Alyssa's head and body. Alyssa weaves and dodges, slipping past Jake's punches with fluid grace. Sensing an opening, Alyssa closes in and attempts a leg sweep to bring Jake to the ground. Jake jumps over the sweep, landing a solid punch to Alyssa's jaw. Alyssa staggers back but quickly recovers, launching herself forward with a flying kick aimed at Jake's chest. Jake braces himself, absorbing the impact of the kick with a grunt of effort. Jake lunges forward with a series of quick jabs, aiming to keep Alyssa on the defensive. Alyssa blocks and parries Jake's strikes with deft movements, then counters with a lightning-fast combination of punches and kicks. Jake retreats, narrowly avoiding the onslaught, then charges back in with a powerful haymaker aimed at Alyssa's head. Alyssa ducks underneath the haymaker, slipping past Jake's guard, and delivers a devastating uppercut to his chin. Jake reels from the blow, but before he can recover, Alyssa follows up with a spinning hook kick that sends him crashing to the ground. Furious, Jake leaps back towards Alyssa with a flurry of strikes. Alyssa deflects each of Jake's punches with her hands, finally catching his fist and gripping it tightly. "Damn it!" Jake screams, trying to pull his fist back, but finding that the woman is much stronger than he is. Jake drives a knee upward, but Alyssa catches it with her other hand. Screaming in frustration, Jake attempts to throw his weight over into a solid kick to the top of Alyssa's skull. The monster hunter pivots and flings Jake with all of his own momentum into an uncontrollable spin into the far wall. "I told you that you're too emotional. You need to calm down and think." Jake manages to stop himself with both feet against the wall and pushes himself off into a full-speed tackle, the wall cracking beneath his force. "I've done just fine on my own, thank you." Alyssa sidesteps the teen and drops an elbow down into the center of his back. "Really? Didn't your emotions get out of control when your friend died? Didn't that little slip-up allow Hui to escape? Didn't some innocent people get killed because you had a temper tantrum?" Jake grinds his teeth together in fury, his eyes beginning to crackle with red electricity. "Shut the fuck up!" He tries to kick upward, but Alyssa pivots and catches him at the knee before delivering two quick and painful, open-palm strikes to his perennial and femoral nerves. Jake screams out in agony before Alyssa releases his leg and delivers a knee to his chin that sends him speeding backward. Jake's frustration mounted with each strike he failed to land, his aura blade flickering unsteadily as his control wavered. He gritted his teeth in frustration, his movements becoming more aggressive as he sought to break through Alyssa's defenses. As his anger grew, Jake's concentration waned, leaving him vulnerable to Alyssa's calm and precise strikes. He left openings at his defense, allowing Alyssa to exploit them with effortless efficiency, her blade finding its mark with unerring accuracy. Jake's attacks grew increasingly sloppy and telegraphed, lacking the finesse and precision of his earlier movements. He swung his aura blade with reckless abandon, leaving himself open to Alyssa's swift and calculated counterattacks. Sensing an opportunity, Alyssa capitalized on Jake's lapses in judgment, using his anger against him to gain the upper hand in their duel. She remained calm and composed, her movements fluid and controlled as she deftly maneuvered around his wild swings. In contrast to Jake's growing agitation, Alyssa remained calm and collected, her focus unwavering, as she patiently waited for the perfect moment to strike. She studied Jake's movements with keen observation, exploiting his weaknesses with ruthless efficiency. With each strike, Alyssa demonstrated her mastery of the blade, her movements precise and deliberate as she landed blow after blow on Jake's exposed defenses. Her strikes were like a dance, flowing effortlessly from one to the next, as she managed to maintain her advantage. Jake's frustration only grew as Alyssa continued to outmaneuver him, his anger clouding his judgment as he responded with increasingly aggressive and reckless attacks. But each strike only seemed to feed Alyssa's calm resolve, further cementing her dominance in their duel. With his emotions running high, Jake abandoned all semblance of strategy, resorting to brute force in a desperate attempt to overpower his opponent. But Alyssa remained unfazed, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Jake's escalating aggression. As the sparring match intensified, Alyssa's skill began to shine through, gradually gaining the upper hand against Jake's formidable abilities. With a swift and precise strike, she managed to shatter Jake's energy sword, leaving him momentarily defenseless as her own blade neared his neck. For a moment, there was a tense silence in the training hall as Alyssa held her sword, poised at Jake's throat, her expression serious and focused. But to her surprise, Jake's response was not one of defeat. Instead, with a quick and fluid motion, he channeled his energy to form a protective barrier around his neck, the shimmering aura deflecting Alyssa's blade with a faint hum. Caught off guard by Jake's resilience, Alyssa's eyes widened in surprise, momentarily distracted as she registered his counterattack. In a split-second decision, Jake had seized the opportunity, manifesting a shard of energy with lightning speed and pressing it against Alyssa's ribs, mirroring her own threatening posture. The standoff that ensued was tense. Both combatants locked in a stalemate as they faced each other with equal parts determination and respect. The training hall was filled with the crackle of energy and the sound of their heavy breathing, the air thick with anticipation. After a few moments that felt like an eternity, Jake and Alyssa exchanged a nod of acknowledgement, silently acknowledging each other's skill and resilience. With a mutual understanding, they slowly lowered their weapons, the tension dissipating as they stepped back from each other. "He has potential," Alyssa says, walking back to Bernard and Colstock. "I think we can work with that." "What is she talking about?" Jake mutters. "Kid, the time of you training solo is over. This last bit of time before the tournament is ours," Colstock says. "We're going to do everything we can to sculpt you into a hardened veteran." As the tournament drew nearer, the intensity of Jake's training only increased. He pushed himself harder, pushing past fatigue and doubt, determined to be in peak condition for the challenges that lay ahead. And amidst the rigors of his training, Jake also found moments of reflection and introspection. He contemplated his reasons for competing in the tournament, the mysteries of his own abilities and the role he might play in the world beyond. With each passing hour, Jake grew stronger, both in body and in spirit. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but he also knew that he needed to become as powerful as possible in the time remaining.